Hi Vic, thanks for joining me. How are you? How are things?
I'm doing well, thanks. Yeah, back from the States and just with family at home right now. Yeah.
I am so excited by this morning because I'm truly fascinated about your journey, because obviously I've been doing a bit of prep over the weekend to find out a bit more about you. Let's start at the beginning. You started training at the age of 3. What made you pick up a racket?
I was actually on holiday just with my parents in the States, and there was like a tots tennis group, and I just said, "Oh, can I have a go?" And that's really where it started. But came back from holiday and started at my local club in Ashbourne, Derbyshire, and then progressed from there. David Lloyd, and then Loughborough. I went to the academy there at 10. I left school, was homeschooled. And then finally was at Nottingham until the States, really.
And that brings me on to the next big question that I have for you, because I'm truly fascinated by this. The decision to go to the States, why?
It's just so great. Like, you can play your game and improve whilst getting your degree, and it just gives you that extra support and extra time to improve before you then go out ready to play the pro circuit, really. That's what I thought.
But I can't imagine what that was like. So what age did you go over to the States?
Well, this is my first year. I'm still a freshman. So I went when I was 18. But I've been speaking to the coach since I was about 16, just keeping my options open. I always think that's a really good decision to do, because you never know what's going to happen if you get injured or something changes. It's a really good option to have, because you have it where you can go and get your degree and improve, or you can decide, actually, I want to give it a go and just go pro.
I can't imagine what it's like for you as somebody who wants to further their tennis career and thinking, you know what, I'm going to go X amount of miles across to another country. Yeah. It's a totally different life from what you have had in the UK. Can you give us a bit of a picture of what it's like to be playing tennis in the US and also living in the US as well?
Honestly, I love it. Especially being in Florida, it's great weather outside pretty much all the time. And that's what tennis is all about, like outside sport, really. And so I lived in dorms, so on campus for my first year, but I'm going to move out next year. And we train in fall. It's technically not our season, so we do more training, even though we do have some competitions. However, they're more individual. But we train usually Monday, Saturday, like through Saturday. We have 4 hours a day, plus you have your classes on top of that. So sometimes it's early morning, sometimes it's more in the evening, but we schedule it around our classes, because they always say student athlete, student comes first. However, the sport over there is just huge for them. I think everything is around their sport. So yeah, that's what I'd say about that.
And in terms of the culture, the US culture versus the UK culture, is there much of a difference between the two, apart from the fact we kind of speak the same language?
I'd say they love their sport and they throw maybe more money into it, especially with their American football. It's huge. The stadium actually at FSU, I think it holds about 83,000 people, which is bigger than some football stadiums in Premier League. But everyone gets involved. They have like boosters to support athletes. We get crowds watching our matches, which is actually quite rare, especially for women's tennis. So a lot of supporters, but it's just such a huge, it's actually like almost an industry in America. Like, college is massive, the amount of money that goes into it and the amount of money that comes out of it as well. I'd just say that's the difference, and maybe the universities support their athletes more because there's more scholarships for people. There's not many universities in England that give scholarships to athletes.
How hard was it to make that decision in your mind to think, okay, I'm going to go to the States. This is a big change for me, leaving behind friends and family. How big of a decision was that for you?
It was huge. It was a lot of things going through my mind because I went on you do some visits if you can, and I went on mine in September of 2018, and I went to 3, and then after I visited them, I saw the facilities and the support that the athletes get, and I was just like, wow, I have everything I need there. We have, for example, in one of our training sessions, we have 3 tennis coaches, a strength and conditioning coach, and 3 athletic trainers who are physios basically on court with us. And bearing in mind there's only 8 players, so that's almost 1 person for each player, which is just insane. But it's how committed they are to the sports and how much they love it basically. So that was a massive factor, because I was like, well, I have all this, just literally my dorm is a 2-minute walk from the courts, so I can just roll out of bed and walk to the courts, and there you go. And
you got the sunshine as well. My goodness, it all falls into place.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're learning on hard courts, I presume, when you're in Florida.
Yeah.
Do you wonder about playing on grass court though?
Well, the grass court season, I love it. It's one of my favourite seasons, but it's only a small part, and you can't practice on that all year round anyway, so it doesn't really stress me out. And Pavi actually is really helpful. Last year I was practicing on the Rolls-Royce courts in Derbyshire, which was just so nice of the club really to allow me to do that, because not many grass courts in Derbyshire, so very lucky to have that. But yeah, I'd just say the grass court season, even though it's important and I love it, it's not the whole year. So the hard court season is the longest, I would say. So that's why it doesn't really affect me.
Because Naomi Osaka has talked about in the past how challenging she finds it playing on the grass, because the majority of the time she's on a hard court. Is that something you sympathise with too?
Yeah, it is. The grass is just so different to any of the surfaces, really. It's just so much faster, so low, and sometimes you get dodgy bounces because it's nature. It's never going to be perfect. But yeah, I do agree that it is really hard, especially as there's such a short time to get used to it before you go from clay basically to grass. So that is difficult. So I do agree with her with that, but there's something special about it.
So let me just get this right. So you've got lovely sunshine. You've got a dorm that's only 2-3 minutes away from the court. You've got a great team set up. You're going to be out there for how many years or so studying your degree?
So 4 years.
4 years. And you're studying a degree in sports management, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Any plans to come back home after the 4 years are done?
Yeah, probably, because I have my coaches over here who I still keep in touch with, and when I came back at Christmas, and now when I came back at first, I saw them until we went into lockdown. So I probably will come back because I do have my team here, even though I will miss training out there and being in the team for sure.
What a fantastic experience it is, and it continues to be. But of course, you're back here in UK. You managed to leave the country before travel restrictions were reduced due to the pandemic. How are you coping with social isolation?
Yeah, it is tough, because you go from being almost every day on court, and that's what you've known since I was 10. So it's really difficult not being able to play. It's just so different to what you're used to, but you just have to adapt. And the FSU have been really good. They've sent us a program, a training program we can do at home, and like, I have no equipment at my house, so they said like, oh, I have literally bands, so they were like, use your bands and we can have you like holding chairs and stuff as like weights. So they've really helped me to like adapt that, and the conditioning. I can just do like running on my street, even though it's difficult because I live in Derbyshire, so there's a lot of hills, so it's pretty brutal.
Big shout out to Derbyshire, of course, because I've got family up that way, and I know Derbyshire's got a lot of hills. I guess it's having to be creative, isn't it, doing socialisation? Because when I spoke to Katie Dunn, she was using tyres that she got from the local garage before things were shut down. When I spoke to Jodie Burridge, she was talking about going on 5K runs with her other half just to keep her mind and her body active. It is coming up with different ways, isn't it? Because you're so used to just going out the court, doing your rallies, doing your drills, and going to the gym for a couple of hours, having a bit of a break, and then going back to doing your training again. It's a new world for you now, would you say?
Yeah, definitely. Like usually I have to drive maybe an hour at home to get to where I train. So like literally haven't been in my car for weeks now, and not been on a court. I think this is week 5 of no tennis. But I do have a wall like on my garage, so I'm able to do that even though it's like sloped because it's on a hill. But you know, just makes it a bit more taxing. Yeah, but there's been a lot of challenges around, especially with where I train. So they've been like fun to do. Like I did this one where you have to like catch an egg on your racket so it doesn't crack.
That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, it was really good actually. I really enjoyed that one. And then I have to apologise to my neighbours because there was one where you have to hit the ball over your house and run through and try and catch it. And unfortunately it didn't go well. I hit it up a bit too short and it landed on my roof and bounced into the neighbour's garden. So I apologise to them for that, but you know, just trying to keep occupied.
Vic, I'm sure your neighbours will not mind in the slightest. However, Vic is apologising for what she's done, and she'll probably throw a chocolate bar over the fence later just as a little gift to say thank you, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about, you know, you've been in social isolation like a lot of tennis players. We've seen now that, you know, there's no clay season, and we know now the French Open is going to be in the autumn, and also there's no grass court season. I mean, up until that point, how would you have assessed your season so far?
Honestly, I'd say it's been really good. It's been completely different to what I normally do because I went to the States. But our team was ranked number 2 in the country, doing really well. And I actually got a singles ranking of 80. And I got 2 doubles rankings with different partners. We were ranked 11 and 23. So for me, it was really successful first season in the States. Otherwise, 2019 was pretty successful. I went from juniors to seniors, had a good run at the Aussie Open Juniors, made last 16 of singles and doubles, which it was just an incredible experience to be able to go there and then compete on those courts in that environment was just amazing. Like, other side of the world, that's what you play for. And then transitioned into seniors, and I did really well, which I didn't know what to expect because it's completely different. But I managed to get a ranking of like 650, I think I got to. So I was just really pleased, and then I went off to the States after I made my decision and just committed to that and loved it. So past year for me has been just so enjoyable. I think that's one of the reasons why I did pretty well.
What's it like moving from the juniors to seniors?
It's different. It's really different because you go from knowing everyone and playing like the same tournaments, and you go from being at the top to have nothing. So it's so hard. You have to basically start again. But it is refreshing because you get to play new tournaments, new people. You can learn more, and I was definitely ready to move into seniors. And yeah, I just loved it really. It was just like you were like the young one, so everyone was sort of looking out at you, and yeah, it was just exciting really.
I can imagine it is, because it's such a massive step up. We've seen sometimes top junior players don't necessarily make that transition well into the seniors, but it sounds like things were starting to fall into place to you. And you mentioned playing out in the Australian Open, having that crowd. I mean, we know that tennis is huge in Australia. I absolutely love it over there. What was that like, being part of that atmosphere of the Australian Open?
Honestly, it was amazing. There was actually a few British fans out there that I wasn't expecting, and I remember I played an Aussie girl in like the second round, I think, and it was pretty equal. Like there was Aussie fans and also Brit fans, so it was brilliant. It was like a tussle of who was going to win, but it was just amazing. And like just any slam to play is fabulous, really, because the courts are just amazing. The way they treat you is unbelievable. You get like that little taste of what it's like to be at the top level, even though it's juniors.
And what are you trying to do to make sure you've got that extra edge over your future rivals?
I would just say like the going to the States was like the best decision for me, because it's so tough because you're in a team. So like if you lose, sometimes like often your team loses. So there's like that added pressure. You're not even playing for yourself anymore. You're playing for your team, and you're representing a bigger thing. Like you're representing, for me, Florida State University. You're representing your university. So it's just like so tough, and because of that, everyone will put out an extra 10%. Like there's been so many times already in my career at FSU that you've seen people being like literally match points and then they lose, because it's never over, because if they lose then the team loses. It's so intense, so it's just an extra bit of competitiveness because of that. And I genuinely think I've already improved as a player because I'm just mentally tougher. Like I will make sure I don't lose until like the ref says game set match, because if I lose then I'm letting my team down basically.
And I guess, sometimes when we look at tennis, we very much talk about the physical side of tennis. But then we also need to start thinking about, which we are doing now, about the mental side of the game as well. Because when you step on court, you have no idea what the opponent's going to do. And you have to figure out their game and then try and overcome their game to win the match. Being part of a team, does that help you with your mental side of the game?
Oh, 100%. Because you've got to focus on yourself, but also you're looking out for your teammates. So you've got like added distractions. So it's really different, because obviously tennis is so individual, and even though you are playing your own match, and you have to focus on your opponent and your game, you're also like shouting down to the 5 courts down to your teammate saying, let's go, like, come on, you've got this. So
yeah, I bet it's all that, isn't it?
Celebrations have got a lot bigger since being out there.
I worked at Wimbledon last year, and I remember the crowd just being, when a British player got a point or won a match, the noise level would just be absolutely immense. I bet for you playing out in the States, it's that same kind of really passionate, intense atmosphere that you play in.
Yeah, I've never been part of anything like that. It's just the supporters, like the fans, they're just so involved. Like they love it if you get like fired up. So the more you get fired up, the more noisy the fans are, and our team like thrives off that as well. So if one of us gets fired up, we'll hear that and react to that, and it's just like a rolling dominoes in a good way. Like when we show our energy, everyone else has energy, and it just like you can see the other team just like sort of sink down a bit. So that's one of the reasons why we were doing so well.
It just makes me think all this that you're doing at the moment is a perfect setup for when you do step out onto the big stage of the Grand Slams, but also the Fed Cup as well. Is that one of your goals on your list, to be part of the Fed Cup in the future?
Yeah, I think it's everyone's goal. Like, to represent your country is just an amazing thing. I've done it in juniors, so I definitely want to do it as like a senior player. I know there's a lot of good Brits right now though, so it's going to be really competitive, but hopefully in a few years it's going to be an option for me.
And speaking of players, I asked you the question about who would you put together as your hybrid player. So let's have a think about that. Let's start with the forehand. Who would you choose on the current tour right now that would have the forehand for your hybrid player?
I mean, you just got to say Serena. She's just got this massive forehand. So yeah, that would be my choice. It's huge.
Very much. I remember the Steffi Graf years. Now, for me, Steffi Graf will always have the best forehand, and Serena is very much a close second. So that's a good shout. How about the backhand? I struggled with this one.
I chose Halep because she's actually like finds a way. She'll hit it, and then she'll be like pretty skillful as well. So I love that she has that variety with it.
Fantastic. Serve.
I think Pliskova. She's just like bombing down those serves, hitting those aces. I think it's got to be her. I mean, and there's a lot of women actually with like huge serves right now, so it's going to be close. But I think she has like the most aces currently, if I'm right.
And finally, the volley, of course.
I said Ash Barty just because she's
interesting. Why her?
She's got great hands. And she's just skillful. I really actually love the way she plays. Yeah. I
would say all those years that Ash Barty was playing cricket has helped her game massively. And I think it was probably at the time she probably didn't think about it, but how it's benefited her game today, she must look back and think how much cricket has helped her in terms of developing the way she plays, the way she serves, the way she volleys. Such a good thing to do, and also just makes her a more rounded player as well. So yeah, volleying I think is a really good shout. And in terms of as we know, lots of players, everyone in the world at the moment is undergoing social isolation. So if you had the chance to chat to any tennis player, male or female, in the world right now, who would you love to have an Instagram chat with?
Honestly, I would say Ash Barty, because I think she's pretty funny actually. Like some of her interviews, she's pretty witty and quite lighthearted. You can just tell that she just loves what she does. Like, she plays because she enjoys it, and that's what I've been doing this past year anyway. I've just been playing and enjoying it, and it's just the best thing really. But yeah, I also love the way she plays. I love how she gets forward and stuff, and I think that's how I want to play.
Great shout. How are you keeping yourself occupied during the lockdown outside of tennis? What things have you been getting up to?
Well, we're technically still in season, so we still have classes, and these next 2 weeks I have finals and stuff. So I'm actually really busy with that. I've got online classes at night because of the time difference, and then I've got quizzes and exams coming up. So that's been pretty busy for me. But also Derbyshire have put on doing these challenges, so I've been carrying out those, and they've done a quiz as well one night, which was really fun. There was about 80 people that joined it, but also I've got my family here, and some aren't here, so it's just FaceTiming and keeping connected with people. That's what I've been doing.
I didn't appreciate that the university was still making sure that you're attending classes. How tricky is that with the time difference?
It is difficult. Luckily I'm ahead, so I don't have to get up really early. But I've got one class that finishes at about 10 at night, and then some are during the middle of the day. So I've just sort of organised my training around that. But some of our team's actually all international. A lot are from Europe, but we have a girl from Australia, and she's having to get up at 3 a.m.
Oh, wow, that's tough.
Yeah, I honestly don't know how she's doing it, but she has to.
And when does the university year come to an end for you?
Well, I finish next week on that Friday, but our season wouldn't have ended until end of May, because you have your conference matches until the start of May, then you have your conference championship, and then the national championships at the end of the month, along with if you have a ranking, you go to individual and doubles rankings as well. The tournament there.
And when this terrible pandemic passes, we don't know what the tennis season's going to look like, or when it's going to resume. So what is your plan in your head once this pandemic passes? I mean, obviously you'll fly back to the States, and then what would you like to do?
Well, depending on when it finishes, if it's finished in summer and there's tournaments back on, I'll play some tournaments late summer, but who knows if there's going to be any. But if not, hopefully we go back in August and I'll fly back. I'll start classes again and training with the team. And FSU does let me play pro tournaments out there, so I might organise some with a few of the girls. We'll go and play some in the States, around training and other college tournaments and school.
And finally, for you, Vic, when you're back in the sunny climes of Florida, and I'm not jealous at all about that, what's the one thing that you miss the most from home?
Honestly, it's family and coaches. I've had the same coach since I was about 8, so that was one of the hard decisions to leave him, because I had to leave and go to a new coach in the States, but I still keep in contact with him all the time, so it's not a problem. But family would be the one I miss, just because it's family, isn't it?
Family, yeah. And I was going to say, I wonder if you miss any food, like baked beans, rich tea, biscuits, chocolate digestives, that kind of thing.
Yeah, luckily in Publix, the supermarket there, they've got a British section, so
fantastic.
I'm usually over there. But the food there's decent, but I do miss my mum's cooking and a roast dinner. They don't have that over there, so.
Fair enough. Well, Vic, thank you so much for your time. That's truly fascinating about the system that you're learning under at the moment in sunny Florida. I wish you all the best. Of course, stay healthy, and I look forward to seeing you on court when the season resumes.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.